We are live.
Oh, we didn't do any. Oh, okay.
Oh, hold on a second.
That's wow. And we thought we had technical difficulty. Hello and welcome. Welcome back. And I mean that in so many ways because we have been gone for weeks, for months. I can't remember. The last episode we did was Sarah Collins, the Friendly Ghost. So it's been that long, and I want to say that was April.
Yes.
Yes. John, it's a live show. It's not a movie, hon.
No, I'm sorry.
it's
It is indeed April.
it's a live show, dear.
I'm sorry. Let me have a drink.
So, for those of you who are return audience, thank you for coming back. Sorry that we couldn't do this last Sunday, but we had major technical difficulties. So here we are. You know, as Jonathan Fritz says when he visited Seaview Terrace, here we are at last. Seaview, I can't get over it.
Somebody said.
Here we are. Seaview. I can't. It's like coming to see. It's like coming to see Barnabas. It's like coming to see Dark Shadows.
David, I remember him making a remark about the shoes. There was a pair of shoes. Remember old dirty shoes? I thought like somebody.
Which, by the way, yes, and God love.
David.
Yeah. Get your. But you know what? Has anybody, before we introduce ourselves, riddle me this? That's not David's window, because look at David's room. David's room is on a curve. David sleeps in the tower. And he's got a little rectangular window. Pardon the noise. We're going to get rid of this beep, beep, beep. Hang on, guys. I have no idea what caused that. It wasn't me.
I can't even hear it.
We can hear it.
Is it gone?
Yeah.
It's gone. But yeah, look at David's room. It's on an angle. And if you've ever been to Seaview Terrace, it's at least 2 floors, maybe 3. So David's room is in the tower. It's not one of those regular windows. He just happens to look out that window when he thinks he's going to send his old man into the tree. Yeah, he's got a bird's eye view from that window. For those of you who don't know me, and there's no reason in the world why you should, my name is Peter Mack. I've been a Dark Shadows fan for way too long. That's just kidding, kind of. And when did I get involved in Dark Shadows? First time was when it was on NBC and reruns, 1982. I was 4 years old. If you do the math, you're dead meat. But it was in the afternoon, and my Grams told my brother and I, we're going to go inside now, because we're going to watch Boniface.
Son of Barnabas.
That was, that's how she always referred to him. We're going to watch Boniface. So that was my introduction. Then I saw it on the New Jersey Network when it was on, because it would get preempted a lot. Finally, the MPI home videotapes came onto the scene, and I got those every month. Became a full-fledged fan, started going to the conventions in 1990. Started working those, performing in the shows that were done there, and then I started writing for the Collinsport players for about 10 years. Did about 10 shows in that time. Produced several other shows outside of the conventions with Nancy Barrett, Marie Wallace and Donna Wandry, and my West Coast mom, Laura Parker, who is a very good friend of ours. and we'll get more into this later on. But anyway, I work primarily in the musical theater and the cabaret world as a singer, as well as a tribute artist, and primarily paying tribute to the late, great, world's greatest entertainer, Judy Garland. And I just had a great gig in Arlington, Massachusetts at a beautiful old theater called the Regent, and working in between all of that. So I'm going to turn it over to our other Dark Shadbro, Michael Panzerato.
Hello, everybody. I am, as he says, Michael Panzerato. And I also have been a dark. I'm sure we're going to get into this more today as this particular episode goes on. But also, since I was small, I think it was my grandmother who watched it because Joan Bennett was in it, and then introduced my father, and then I fell in love with it, as they say in Christmas Carol, upon the instant. And have been. It's one of my top twos ever since. I'm an actor myself. My great love is lost in space besides Dark Shadows, and there was a lovely animated film for which I took part. I was engaged to do Dr. Zachary Smith, but now that is in litigation, so I don't know if we'll ever see that. And I've relocated. I'm in Los Angeles now, and loving the sun and loving life, and waiting for these two to get their asses out here, and that's about the size of it. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. I'm anxious to dig in. And yes, I am a Spain fan. Viva España.
Hi, I'm DJ Schaefer.
Yeah, we are live, John.
I'm DJ Schaefer, and I have been a fan of Dark Shadows for 23 years, which incidentally is how long Peter and I have been a couple. And so I have been in fandom and have done many things on stage as Julia Hoffman, off stage producing different shows, including shows with Donna Wandry, Marie Wallace, Nancy Barrett, and of course, our darling, we'll get into this later, Laura Parker, who Peter said indeed was our West Coast mom. Few things technically here. I may look down, I may look at my phone. That is me checking messages from you. We want to make you a part of the broadcast.
Please be a part of the podcast. Share your memories, ask questions, whatever it is. We want your thoughts, we want your input, we want all of that stuff. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
Yes, please.
Very important. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps us build up our audience-ship. We still got that going on.
And I have no idea why it's doing
It
that.
sounds like that noise that Fred Flintstone makes when he's driving his car.
And you may hear background noise from this air conditioner. There's a heat dome. It got to 102 today here.
102 real feel.
So we had to put on our air conditioner because the central air just was not enough. And that is it. Over to you.
Over to me. Well, first of all, happy 60th. Happy 60th anniversary, Dark Shadows. That's why we're here today. A round of applause. A round of applause. Yeah, the big 6-0. It's wild. It's bizarre to think that it's 60 years old.
It truly is. Considering we've all been fans since we were little, and if you think about it, it was on before we were born. So
Exactly.
It doesn't feel that old. So it's incredible how the momentum continues as they are.
Now we've got they just announced that they're working on an animated series. Warner Brothers is working on an animated series that dropped just a few days ago. I think it was just the day before the official anniversary on June 27th. So this has created quite a furor of sorts in fandom. It's being labeled as an adult series. Now, when we say adult series, meaning mature, not adult in the 42nd Street, have to be 21 to get in.
I can't believe. And do we know anything about the animation yet? The animation, is it anime-like? Is it going to be more along the lines of Adventure Time?
I'm wondering. I said this on a board yesterday. My only concern is I heard Castlevania. I had a vague idea of what that was, and when I went and looked, I said, "Oh, right." I know, with all due respect to Castlevania, I hope that's not the route that they're going to go. with the animation, there have been some other things where God love the artists. I don't want to put down anyone's art because art is
Right.
subjective, and I know this isn't going to be Disney either. So I'm not expecting it to. Although if you look at Belle in Beauty and the Beast, when she gets in her ball gown, that is Catherine Lee Scott as Josette Collins. It is totally Catherine Lee Scott as the hair and everything, the big part in the middle and all the sausage curls. That's totally Catherine Lee Scott as yeah. So I'm wondering too, what is the anime? I hope it's. See, I kind of want something like Scooby Doo.
Somebody put those out. The little
Yes.
the placards of the Hanna-Barbera looking. Well, I'll tell you, in the 70s, they did an absolutely horrible Lost in Space cartoon by Hanna-Barbera. The Hanna-Barbera did it. The art was horrible. There was no point. Anyway, but they released an ad for it, and I swear the ad was done by somebody that worked at Filmation, which is the He-Man, She-Ra, and it looked in the ad for it was incredible. Jonathan Harris looked just like Jonathan Harris, and it really, I mean, down to the forehead wrinkles and everything. So I love Filmation's animation.
Me too.
They
Me
layer
too.
over people, so that would be cool to me too if they went that route, or the back sheet. And what's his name? Something back sheet is Lord of the Rings. So he did something very similar. I would love to see something like that, but I just love to see a period. I hope as long as it's not like Adventure Time or SpongeBob, I'm gonna go. I'll be happy. Just have
Well,
it
and a continuation. Now this has come up too. A continuation. I go. So, Mark B. Perry's proposed Dark Shadows reincarnation is a continuum, but in the now. It would be bringing us into David's children and Collinwood now. Continuum or continuation can mean a lot of different things. My little fan heart goes to that moment when in episode 1198, the last time we ever see Barnabas and Julia, and they
Right.
walk into the camera, and now we're in 1841 parallel time. I love the idea of it going that route. Okay, now we're back in 1971, and they're going to pick it up right where it left off.
Well, the beautiful thing about this animation thing is, akin to AI now, you can get somebody who sounds like Grayson. You can get somebody who sounds like Jonathan Frid. David Selby is still with us, thank goodness. But there are people who can at least bring that quality too, and you don't have to worry about. And this is a huge thing with Dark Shadows. I never thought about it until I saw Jonathan Frid in an interview, and they said, "Would you ever play a vampire again?" And he was saying, he was joking about that. He said, "There's no way I could do it again." They said, "Why?" He said, "Vampires don't have this." He had picked up weight, and I think you don't have to worry about this stuff anymore. Age no longer becomes
Right.
a factor. Once we're doing animation, so these immortal characters that we love and adore can indeed go on and on and on and on and on and on. So that's rather exciting too.
So yeah, I'm curious as to where they're going to pick it up from exactly, and I hope they do look like the actors, because I believe there's so much about all of this. You've got the sorry for the noise, guys. You've got the I just lost my train of thought.
While you're thinking, we've had several people on boards, as well as just now we had a question that actually brings up, what about using AI? Pam actually just asked that question.
AI is a very touchy subject in Dark Shadows fandom, and for a variety of reasons. There's a lot that's been going on. I'm not telling tales out of school. About a month or two ago, someone went in and took this beautiful photo of Catherine and Jonathan and Laura at the 50 Years of Soap celebration where Jonathan and Laura appeared on stage. And they went backstage, and Ben Martin, Catherine's first husband, took a gorgeous photo of them. And there's no need to retouch a Ben Martin photo. It's one thing if you clean something up. I remember looking at the picture and going, that doesn't even look like Catherine or Laura.
Laura, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, they really had done a number on it where it's one thing to clean something up, but this was like they had altered majorly.
Yeah,
And Catherine
yeah,
was upset, and I don't blame her.
yeah. No, no, no. Why break? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
You know, leave well enough alone. I know exactly what you said. AI, you've always got a finger missing. It's too. And we've all talked about this before too. Until they hit a point where they stop losing the little tiny quirks, like when I heard an AI story that was, I think Vincent Price was supposed to be telling the story, and he would hit things like Jonathan and say Jonathan.
Jonathan, right? We talked about that. Yeah.
It'll mispronounce things, and plus, you have to be careful of AI. Don't cut people's jobs.
There's that too.
People who could actually do the voices very well and all of that. You kind of want to give them and maybe add their own flavor to it. So it's a very touchy kind of issue.
It's a wonderful tool. John, now being in technology, John has had to get on the AI bandwagon because his doctorate is in computer mediated learning. So he's and the thing is, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
Agreed.
Right.
It's going to be a part. That's it. It's going to be here. I've said in previous shows, once they get the technology down, and we don't have that, Jonathan,
Right.
rather than
Exactly.
now, if the estates will grant permission, Joan, Jonathan, Louis, Thayer,
Right.
Grayson, pull all of their voices from 1971, and you can have brand new shows with their
Right.
actual voices. But it has to
Yeah.
be perfected first.
Kind of befitting as well, since there's not a lot, artistically speaking, of not a great deal of new material out there. So you may as well use the OGs if you can. And as it grows and you do start to go on to the next, because that's what they did in the original, they went to the next family member who had an issue, and the next family member who had, or the next villain came on board. You can add new as you go along and have them voiced by new people. So it's kind of the best of all worlds at that point. But yeah, I agree with you. Pandora's box has been opened. There's no point in fighting it. You have to refine it. It's a good in life, like wine, water, heat, and air. It can go bad real quick, but you've got to keep an eye on it. You have to be responsible for it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Keep it in discussion.
Absolutely, because you don't want it being used in the wrong way.
Right.
Well, even with well, yes, I know, I know where your mind is going, Michael. Jeff Goldblum, when he was doing the press junket for the second Wicked movie, they had to show him as a young man, so they took an actor who looked like him for the prologue, because in the second movie we do see him. They turn him around so you could see him, and then they took his face as a young man. They morphed the two together. He was very pleased with the effect. And he said, they're getting there. It's give them a little bit more time. It's with CGI and AI, they are getting there. You just have to be patient.
Yeah. It is cool because I remember way back in 20 whatever when they redid or when they did, was it X-Men Last Stand? They were just toying with making people look younger, and they had Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen. When they were young, their characters, Magneto and Charles, going to recruit Jean Grey, and they made them both younger. And it looked kind of corpsey, particularly for Patrick Stewart, but it was cool. They were making people look younger. And then Star Wars, as you went along, you saw a young Carrie Fisher in one part. So it is growing. It is a work in progress.
I just want to, because I'm reading some of the comments. Pam? Is that Pam?
Yes.
Pam. No, listen, here's the deal, Pam. Nothing will ever, but here's the great news.
She said nothing will ever replace the original DS.
Right. It was what it was, and it is what it is, and nothing can ever, it's clear from everything that's going on now. because this 60th anniversary could have gone over with a whimper. And there's now a blitzkrieg. So it has its place, and people will always go back. I mean, here, let me give you a case in point. The Wizard of Oz is bringing in billions of dollars at the Sphere in Las Vegas. I can't wait to see it, only because Lorna Luft has given it her endorsement. For those of you who don't know Lorna Luft, shame on you, but that's Judy's youngest daughter. She's gone with her children and her grandchildren. Here's the thing. For the Sphere, they had to fill this huge screen. And because The Wizard of Oz was made in 1939, it wasn't going to coalesce. So they had to go in and add to that picture. They had to make the farmhouse and the farm itself bigger. They had to make Munchkinland bigger. They had to make the cornfield bigger.
They used AI.
They had to use AI in order to do that. And there's definitely a couple of times where they, pardon my language, they fucked up. Because there are clips you can watch online. But it's interactive. You know, you're in the cyclone. There are leaves being blown at you. The apple trees in the apple orchard are throwing the apples at you. There's stuff that they added that was cut from the movie, like when the witch pursues them at the Emerald City and she writes in the sky, "Surrender Dorothy." In the script, she was supposed to write, "Surrender Dorothy or die." So now that's on the screen instead of "Surrender Dorothy." So they've actually added a few things that were cut from the script. Now, they've got to get in a lot of showings, so they cut 35 minutes out of the movie. For someone like me, anybody who knows me and what I do for a living, that's sacrosanct. Same time, it's being very well received, and they're not doing that to the original movie. So if you go to buy The Wizard of Oz on Blu-ray, or you go to see it in the movie theaters when they re-release it in the fall, you're going to see the movie that you've grown up with. This just happens to be a special thing that they're doing in Las Vegas. It's I hate to be long-winded, but nothing is going to replace that original movie any more than anything new is going to replace the original Dark Shadows. It's there.
Right. And like any good story, when you look at it, it becomes ageless, but then you do love the notion of doing more with it. You know what I mean? I love Tolkien. It's ageless. I could read it over and over and over again. The same, and it's the same with Dark Shadows. They're great stories. You read them and see them over and over and over and over and over again, and then you'll think, well, what would happen if? What's going on with them now? What's happening? With wonder where Julia, like in the initial dramatic readings or the whatever. Julia and Barnabas are in China. Julia and Barnabas are in Asia looking for are they back yet? What's happening? Is he still struggling? What's going on? And what's going on with Angelique? Is she truly dead? Did she really? So there's a lot left that can be done now. A lot of questions that can be answered, and so I think it's exciting.
I wonder, again, with this animated series, I wonder what they're going to do. When they say continuation, it's a broad spectrum, so who knows what they plan on doing with it. And now I think we're kind of switching over to another series. Mark B. Perry is still shopping around his continuation series.
Oh.
We've talked about, and I didn't realize, John Logan, who has co-written with Catherine Lee Scott. There's a new book coming out, if you didn't know, guys, called Dark Shadows Legacy. It's the official 60th anniversary book. And I hope I got his name right. Is it Mark Maddox did the artwork for it? He did the lunchbox that came out. There was that Dark Shadows lunchbox that came out a few years ago with Barnabas and Angelique and Quentin on it. So he's done the artwork for the front cover and the back cover of this new book. A lot of the stars have written things for it from all variations. Ava Green, Angelique from the Johnny Depp movie. Lizette Anthony has written a preface, I believe. There are fans who have been involved in fandom for years who have written essays for it. So putting that out on the radar screen too, that's That's something that to look forward to. It comes out in about a month, I think August 4th. If you pre-order it, it's coming out on August 4th, and it's a big, beautiful coffee table book with tons of photos, not to be confused with Dark Shadows Noir, which Hermes Press is releasing. That's the one with all the black and white Dan Curtis photos. That's something separate. I don't know when that book comes out, but I think they come out within a couple of weeks of each other.
Yeah, initially, so I went to Barnes and Noble about Dark Shadows Noir, and originally they said May, and I hadn't heard, so I called and said, "Oh no, not yet. Something has happened, or whatever. It's still not available yet." So I think they are going to be coming out back to back, which will be big fun.
Yeah, yeah.
I read online that Dark Shadows Noir wasn't coming out till September.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, has it been
There
pushed
you go.
back? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think they also
They should.
pushed back. I'm sorry, Michael. Barnabas Collins, a personal picture album.
That's pushed to January.
That was supposed to be out. That's through Hermes, and then, oh, Bob. Unfortunately, it's part of the legacy, like it or not. And realize, and I know this is tough for some people to.
We should tell people what Bob said. Bob said,
Hey, what did Bob say?
the artwork of that cover is beautiful for the new book. Unfortunately, Eva Green and Johnny Depp are represented.
Well, look at all the, you have the same with Star Trek and Lost in Space and all there are things Christ, like that animated Lost in Space, but it's there. It is what it is. That's all right. And to be honest with you, if you're talking about the actors, Depp and Green did a great job. Had it been a serious film, still Johnny Depp could play a damn good Barnabas Collins. Nobody else tried to try to stay so closely to Fritz. I mean, Ben Cross hadn't even watched the damn show. Johnny Depp was a fan, and you could see it in his face if you watch the movie when they come into the party. You could see Johnny Depp being a fanboy. Welcome to Collinwood. He looked like he broke character for a hot minute. At least give him that much credit. I feel the same way. Sometimes the movie's like, oh, come on, I really would have liked to have seen something, but it's a fun
We
movie.
all would have. We all would have. I get upset. I'm sorry, John. I get upset when people call it a parody because John and I are in the parody business, and it's not a parody. It's satirical caricature. There's a big difference.
Yeah.
Because his makeup is totally. Every time I see the makeup, I go, well, do we have those photos?
Yeah, I do.
I was hired that year for the West Hollywood Halloween extravaganza to host it, and they wouldn't let me do it as Judy. They said it had to be a Halloween-oriented person, and the movie had been out that year. So I said, all right, what about Johnny Depp as Barnabas Collins? So that's how I hosted. I think we've got. There's two photos. There we go.
Oh, that's good. Some good makeup.
That was Halloween of 2012. Is the other photo? Is the other photo?
That's the one.
Is that the one? Okay. Yeah. So I get it. None of us wanted a satirical comedy. You were going to say, John.
I was going to say that movie really screwed the pooch. The first 12 minutes were brilliant. That where you had the prologue and you saw his parents, how they got killed, just brilliant. And then it went off kilter.
You bring up an interesting point. I've said the same thing. Laura Parker said the same thing. Those first 12 minutes, I believe, that they had just kept it that way. And there's still wonderful moments throughout the rest of the film. The stuff I don't like is him hanging upside down in the closet like a bat. I didn't like that. I didn't like Angelique puking in his face and the roaches crawling down. Like, that's the stuff that I was like, I don't know if kids are watching this. You're not supposed to be watching this unless you have very progressive parents. People had a coronary over Julia going down on him. This is a huge bone of contention for Dark Shadows fans.
Because she wouldn't have if she could have.
Well,
Speaking character character, not Grayson and Jonathan. But I mean, let's face it, Julia was mad about him. So I don't know why they would get mad about that.
Again, satire though. Satire.
Yeah.
You know, taking it to another level and making it a caricature. So
I mean,
it's
Christopher Lee. What is it? Barnabas Collins got to hypnotize Count Dracula. That was really cool. There were a lot of nice fan nods in there too, and you know, so I think, like you said, a lot of us were left kind of hanging, but it is what it is, baby. And
just
I think
go ahead, Michael.
He did a good job. I think he did it as you know, I mean, and I'm dead serious about this. I love Ben Cross. And yeah, he did bring a whole different Barnabas kind of in a lot of ways too, but he didn't. Depp tried to be loyal to Jonathan Fritz, and indeed I think he was. So for that, he gets 1,000 points of credit for me.
Totally, and two things there. One thing I was replaying the new series, and I love the NBC series. We all love it. We all wanted more of it. You know, we should all lynch Warren Littlefield because he was the one that killed it. There's this. Let me put this to rest. This great rumor that the Gulf War ended the new Dark Shadows. No. Yes, it got preempted, and that didn't help it. But Brandon Tartikoff commissioned the show. He stepped down. Warren Littlefield took over. And Warren Littlefield didn't like the show, didn't get the show, and didn't want the show. Friday nights at 9 o'clock in 1991 was the kiss of death. Even Laura said this. It's not a time when people were normally at home. It was
what killed Star Trek, by the way. The original Star Trek, the same thing.
There you go.
Exact same thing.
There you go. They could have played around with it, and even though it was different networks, you had Murder, She Wrote, 8 o'clock on Sunday nights, Cabot Cove, Maine. They should have put Dark Shadows Sunday nights at 9 o'clock, so you could have went from Cabot Cove to Collinsport.
Oh, clever.
I mean, didn't they do, if I'm not mistaken, when it first aired, the pilot, the movie, when the first episode of House of Dark Shadows, in essence, came out, it was Sunday into Monday, wasn't it?
It was a Sunday and a Monday, yes. Yes.
What the hell? Like, you know? So, Laura Parker, I think she said it to you. I think I heard it on your interview with her. She suggested that you would have, and I think one of them is dead now, so I'm pretty sure it won't ever happen, but Merchant Ivory would have been a brilliant
yes
touch to Dark Shadows. Somebody who actually had their hand on period pieces would have been great. I think she said Merchant Ivory, wasn't it?
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
So,
So you can blame Warren Littlefield. He did not, and he did the same thing to Alf. Brandon Tartikoff promised them something. He was gone. Warren Littlefield didn't like the show, and we were all left in this, which I felt so bad. It was like 3 weeks ago. We lost the mom, Anne Shadeen, who played Kate. Tanner passed away.
She looked good, too.
Yeah.
She looked good.
Yeah, she looked great. And this is the 40th anniversary of Alf, which I grew up with, and I love Alf. So
it's crazy to me, Alf, because there are 2 left now from a series made in the 80s. That's crazy to me. That is a concept that is like the boy is gone now. Everybody, only Lynn and Alf.
And Alf. That's it.
Please don't make a movie about that. Please, I beg you. Don't ruin my happiness. Just now Lynn and Alf are the only ones left. Oh, God.
And let me, because we're talking about what we want and what we don't want. It was it Warner Brothers? Paul Fusco was saying there was a deal on the table for them to reboot Alf, and there are several projects in the works because people want Alf back. They wanted to go back to the original series and put him with the Tanners again and crashing into the roof, which is personally what I want. Paul doesn't want that. But I wish he would listen to the fans, because I think the majority of us would love to see it. Or even if it was, even though Benji is dead, and Benji is my age, God rest him, he passed away a few years ago, Brian, the little boy. But it should be Brian and his family. I think Alf should recrash into the roof again, and now Brian has to deal with everything that Willie had to deal with. That's
You know, and you have to be so careful with that. And with any reboot or any new telling, do you remember? And I remember it was terribly depressing. But in the '80s, they did or a couple times, they tried to reboot Leave It to Beaver.
Oh, sure. I watched it.
And
I watched it.
It was so hard for me to watch because there seems to be so much lenience on the fact that Ward was no longer there. There was so much, and look, I love the character of Ward Cleaver, and I love it. And you, as a fan, you already felt that way. If your dad and mom watched Leave It to Beaver, or you already felt his absence, and I felt like they hit on that too much, and it stopped being the wonderful Leave It to Beaver with a good moral lesson to let's just talk about Dad no longer being here, and how hard it is for us to live in Dad's shadow and all that. And I think that same with Lost in Space. If they were able to do it, which now it's too bloody late, but to talk about Guy being gone. I read a couple fan stories about John Robinson being gone, or the Ballad of Will Robinson, which Billy movie, where it's a beautiful song, but it's sad when you think of Guy Williams talking about that in it. So you have to be careful. But Alf is so happy and so upbeat. There's so many possibilities. You know, even with nobody knows what Brian would look like now, so it's good work. You know, do it. Everybody loves Alf.
Yes. Yeah. And he's got again. It's just the thing for me too. We've talked about what's my fan wish. I love Mark P. Perry's idea, and you should listen to his conversation with Penny Dreadful because he goes into keeping this is the thing, even with this animated series, Collinwood has to look like Collinwood. It's got to look like Seaview Terrace, and it's got to look like Cy Thomasoff sets. And Perry has said that that's what he's putting on the table to them. We've got to give the audience, the hardcore fan base, what they know and what they love. Collinwood, the old house, the Evans cottage, the inn, the mausoleum, Josette's bedroom. They all have to look the way they did on the original series, because if you turn off the original fans, which does tie in with the Depp film, you want, because the problem is when the producers or the studio heads go, well, we can't worry about the fans who watched the original. We've got to reach a larger base. And the fans, good word of mouth will get you the bigger audience. It's a microcosm of the larger audience. So you don't want to piss the fans off.
I think too that people need to start to get a grip on the fact that tastes and things are cyclical. So they really don't die out. And if you notice by the amount of television reboots and the amount of stories being retold, you don't have to worry about the younger people, the younger fans, the new fans will like. Otherwise, they wouldn't be watching it to begin with. They are going. Those things that made Dark Shadows, like you're saying, so like we've discussed about, these are other characters in the show, dialogue-less other characters, the houses, the props. You know you wanna fuck this up. Take away Barnabas's ring, cane, and cape.
It's got to be there. It's got to be there. It's got to be there.
Stick with what works, and you won't ever regret it. You know what I mean? I agree. You've got the cartoon has to have the same. And for me, as a Maryland kid, as a Marylander, one of the original colonies, Collinwood was It felt reachable. It felt very familiar. It wasn't so opulent. It wasn't like South Fork or it was the same thing with, like, so when you look at Dallas or when you look at Dynasty, that was way out there. Billionaire people with lots and lots of money that you would never, that was fantasy. But when you look at Dark Shadows and say The Young and the Restless, Jabot, or Victor Newman's company, or General Hospital, those were all things you saw around you. You know, they weren't so outreachable, so out on the outskirts. Dark Shadows, those sets were familiar. Those old manor homes in Maryland and all of that. You could drive out and see those on the coast, and I think every state had. Stick with that. Don't make it so opulent that it becomes out of reach. You know, this is an old family, but this is not the Taj Mahal.
No.
You know.
No.
And God, I hope they start doing. I hope they start utilizing like all these passageways and spaces and acknowledge their existence. You know, like
Really-
the weird
really-
tunnels that even Barnabas didn't know. You know.
Sure. We have a new viewer, Robert Cochran. Hi, Robert. Robert says
Hello.
the sets are characters themselves.
Oh yes, yeah. We're going to do a whole.
Oh,
Actually,
no.
I should mention there's a book coming out. I forget the lady's name, but she has written a whole book about Cy Thomasoff, and I don't know if it's going to be ready in time for the festival, but I think it's going to be ready in time for the end of the year, and it will focus primarily on Dark Shadows. She has wonderful blueprints and all kinds of stuff. It'll focus on his other work as well, but it's going to be this wonderful book about. I met Cy once at the festival. He was a sweet, lovely, lovely man, and I said that exactly what you said, Robert, is what I said to him. Those sets, those rooms. I mean, Cy was Collinsport. Cy was Collinwood. He came up with all these things that we love. Here the other day, we were talking about the catacombs of the old house. Why didn't they ever use those again? Well, first of all, it took up half the studio because it had to be, if Collinwood was on the left side, when you walked in, Collinwood was on the left side. The old house was always adjacent on the far right. So all of those corridors, and I realized, I said, we don't see all that much. I think we see the Evans cottage because Sarah goes and tells him, you know, oh, yeah. You might find Maggie if you go down there tonight. If you go down to Widow's Hill, go down to the beach
go
on
down to the
Widow's Hill
beach.
tonight. So that took up half the studio, but I was on the edge of my seat with those catacombs, and they never used them again.
Well, they never used the kitchen either.
Only early on.
Exactly.
And then in parallel time for like 2 minutes, and they shrunk it. They shrunk the
And
they
yet, and yet and Willie is showing Adam the jewels.
Yes.
That are apparently parked on the front step of the catacombs. He's showing them to this guy who could easily go through the catacombs, but
That's right.
but never does. But he's looking at the pretty shinies, you know.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah.
You know how much could they do with a cartoon with the West Wing?
Oh.
The stairway.
Yeah, sure.
You know, they could do. It's so exciting to me about these. The fact it's animated is again the ageless. We can see. Okay, this is a personal thing for me. I would love to see. I love it when Barnabas squares off with the werewolf.
Yes.
We've had this discussion. I almost said beating off. He's beating the werewolf with his cane. And the way his expression in one of them, he's got the cane pulled back, but the expression almost looks like he's baring his fangs a little bit to tell which is a very and I like this. This is something totally I'm reading into this as a fan. Is a very animal thing. Animals bare teeth to show back off. You know, it's like showing the gorilla beating the chest and all of that, and it gives you that Barnabas is telling him, "I'm not one of these people.
Yeah,
You're not gonna. I ain't no easy win. I'm only gonna be so many more." You know, and I love that, and I hope that they do that. That we get a good fight between Quentin. I'd like to see Quentin and Barnabas go at it, even though he's there to help him.
right.
You know, God knows they went rounds in the beginning. But anyway, those are just the things they can do now that makes this so much more. You can see some physicality too. You know, I love when Fred. That's what I love about Peter Cushing, the physicality of his acting, running across tables, leaping into the air, jumping on. Let's see some of that now. You know, let's see him do it.
Yeah.
Quentin, I'd like to see Quentin transform like a real. What kind of werewolf will he be? Will he be like a Lon Chaney Jr. werewolf, or will he be like American Werewolf in London? Because that's going to.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Please,
you know,
and I love. I have to say, because I love American Werewolf in London. I revisited that a lot over Halloween, and it's so brilliant. David Naughton is great. Griffin Dunn, who's smart. John, you read his book. I've got to read his book. What is it? The Friday Afternoon Club.
Yep.
Yeah. and the tragedy that he went through with his sister. She was in Poltergeist.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, and his father, Dominic Dunn, just goes without saying. But American Werewolf in London is a really good movie. But I wouldn't, for Dark Shadows, I wouldn't want to see Quentin or Chris portrayed in that way. I like the Lon Chaney version better.
Well, the thing about that is that if they did do that, it's going to add some real difficulties for what I just said about Barnabas fighting with him, because this is like a bear with a wolf's head,
right?
In American Werewolf in London, and then the werewolf in that movie is more, it just shreds people, and I don't want to see people get shredded. I would like to see like a little bit of oh, we found her, it was a rough thing, but you don't want to see anybody shredded. But or maybe Harry Potter. I don't want to see like Underworld werewolf either. That's too big too. I think too big and too, less like the old, or even the what is it? The Hammer horror.
Yes,
Hammer
yes, exactly. The one with what's his face? Oliver Reed.
Yeah, no, yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that.
Hold that thought, because this is. Now we're tying into. We've got the animated news, and at the same time, pardon me, Michelle Pfeiffer gave an interview and said she'd like to bring Dark Shadows back to television in a serialization.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Michelle.
She said, I've been a lifelong fan.
She was see, I'll tell you what I didn't like about the movie the most, going back to Depp. Helena Bonham Carter, I can't stand the woman. If anyone's a fan of hers, great, good on you. Also, some of her I hate to say, I had to break it to it, some of her politics. Anyone who supports J.K. Rowling, go fuck yourself. Please unsubscribe. That's fine. But putting all of that aside, to me, she was the worst thing in the movie. She was the worst thing in the movie. I thought Michelle had all the grace of a Joan Bennett. I would have liked her hair up in the big curls. I would have preferred having her hair up in that big sweep of curls the way Joan used to wear it. But if Michelle wanted to do it, and she's a fan, see, Helen would make fun of the show when it. And Michelle was like getting into it, and she was like sitting there like a little kid in the dressing room watching the show. So again, that's who you want, someone who's a fan of the show. Whoops. Come here, sweetie. What?
Guys, I will be right back. I think it's
Sure.
in my nose. I can't breathe.
It's okay.
You want someone who's a fan of the show being involved with it. So that's really cool. And again, if we go back to the idea of redoing the show, as long as it's set in 1966, because modern day, with the exception of the Perry idea, a redo, if you were to say, oh, we're going to do it with Victoria on the train, but she's going to have an iPhone and it's going to be 2026. There's too much technology. It would not work. Put it back in 1966, and this is just me now, guys. I fell in love, and we haven't seen all of them, with Bridgerton. Everybody knows my first choice for Barnabas is Jonathan Bailey, because I think he has the machismo and the vulnerability to pull it off, and he looks really good in a cutaway coat. He would work that Inverness coat. But the other side of it is that, well, like what they're saying with this cartoon, it's going to have to be a little bit sexy. And if you've seen Bridgerton, you know it's a little bit sexy. So you're going to see, I would think we would see more of what you saw in Mad Men. Carolyn and Burke and Maggie and Joe. And, let's face it. Yes, there was sex in Collinsport. We just didn't see it.
If the vampire series, it would be stupid of you to assume not.
Gary
It is a metaphor
Swafford
for sexuality.
Gary just wrote, I would love to see Dark Shadows back where it started on daytime TV. Peter was telling me something, actually, that there was an opportunity that Dan Curtis passed on.
Fox.
On Fox. To
Originally,
actually
I
bring it
believe,
back 5 days a week.
Fox. And then, see, the problem with Curtis was this was his claim to fame, and yet, in many ways, I think he was ashamed of it because it was live, and because they couldn't go back and redo. And so I think that when he got to do the movies, and here's to me as a parallel with the Dark Shadows movies from MGM and the Depp film, I should say the Burton film, because film is a director's medium. In both cases, they screwed themselves out of a franchise. House of Dark Shadows made a lot of money. There's no question about it. House of Dark Shadows made... My stock answer, it's a fast-paced, slick vampire film. We love all the actors in it, and that's why we enjoy it. Frid hated it. This is going to bring up another point. Frid hated it. Not a good idea to piss off your leading man. MGM loved it because it made them money. They doubled his budget from $900,000 to
1.8.
Huh?
1.8.
They doubled whatever. They doubled his budget. I've got the movie book sitting over here. But he lost Frid, and I maintain I want everybody to get Night of Dark Shadows restored. I don't want any of you not to have that. Please. I've been called a Night of Dark Shadows hater. I simply don't care for the movie. But I maintain the reason it didn't do well was because people saw the trailer, and where was it? Where was he?
Right.
He was gone. And I believe that is why... I believe that is why the second film did not do, but putting all the cuts aside, I believe that is why Night of Dark Shadows did not do as well as it could have or should have.
Barnabas was the anchor of the show.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I heard Laura Parker say that, and I'm also pretty sure she also said making him human got boring. Like, you keep Barnabas a human being for too long, he gets to be just a dull. I mean, think about it. He's just an aristocratic guy mooning over a girl who no longer exists as a human being. So, you're right. You remove, how many of us got bored when he was held a captive in the coffin in parallel time for however long? All right, where is he? Where is he? All right, where is he?
Yeah.
After a while, he's like the mover of the show.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also happen to think if you did that with Julia, it would be boring. If you got rid of Julia, nobody would want to. And to your point about the movie, it made a lot of money, but a lot of people who were fans of the show went to see it in one fell swoop. So you had God knows how many thousands of people at that time that were inundating theaters. God knows what they were thinking they were going to get. They probably thought they were going to go in and see all of the characters in one movie, but
Right.
I bet you, how many of them, if they said, well, if they started to take, if they took, what was it, the material in House of Dark Shadows and put it as though it were a storyline in the series. So let's do a storyline where Barnabas is just one big bitch, and Court Barlow style just digest the entire town. First of all, there goes Collinwood. How are we gonna have an entire town of vampires not get noticed ever by any other authority?
Right.
But all of the characters are now wiped up. They're all on one level again. Barnabas, to start off with Barnabas, the big bad monster on the block, and that was really cool. And then they went to tell his story, and oh, lo and behold, inside his story, there's an even bigger bad guy on the block. And they were going to get rid of her, and it didn't. So House of Dark Shadows, I think people would have, after a while, they used that as a storyline, been like, all right, I get it. He's feeding off the town. And
Ron Sproat brought that up because he and Dan Curtis left on bad terms. The writers, there was not a lot of love lost between Dan and any of the writers. Let's put it this way. There was not a lot of love lost there because he was really, really not very nice to the writers. There's no nice way for me to say that. And Ron saw the movie. He went to see the movie, and Curtis was like, "Yeah, man, we did it. We did, what I wanted to do." And Ron was like, "Yes, you did." And as a movie, for 90 minutes, that works. But you could not have done that week after week after week. Now, what were we talking about the other day? We mentioned Murder, She Wrote. when Angela Lansbury got the role of Jessica Fletcher, and you watch the first few episodes, she, as she pointed out, is a little bit eccentric. She wears a tam o' shanter, the occasional cape, and she's a little bit more dotty. And Angela said to them, I really would like to make her every woman. She's lost her husband, but she's independent. She's a writer now. She doesn't need a man. Not that she won't flirt, but she doesn't need a man. I want to add this and add, let's get rid of this, let's get rid of that, let's get rid of the old-fashioned Margaret Rutherford, not that there's anything wrong with that, and make her, and she started to develop Jessica her way. Now, Peter L. Fisher, who created the show, they started to lock horns, and as it came towards the end of, I believe, I want to say the 4th or 7th season, she really got upset with the way he was taking the show, and the show was about to go off as a result of that. And he wanted her best friend on the show, William Wyndham, who I adored, who would have been a great Professor Stokes. He played Dr. Seth. He was going to try to give them a romance, and she was very, very upset about that. And as a result, in order to keep Angela, Peter exited the show. Now, he had created the character of Jessica Fletcher on paper. But here's the question. Who had more influence? Who really created Jessica Fletcher? Peter Fisher or Angela Lansbury? Who really created Barnabas Collins? Dan Curtis or Jonathan Frid? I'll give you all a couple of minutes to think about that.
I mean...
Michael, you go first, Michael.
You remove, the idea of not playing him, we've all had the deep dive villain, you know where I stand on that front. It bores the shit out of you after a while. And he took his guy and said, I'm an actual actor, and I've done enough theater, and let's don't make him a vampire. How do you play a vampire?
Right.
Let's make him a man with a problem. How many people in this world have a problem that they keep hidden? A lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. And particularly in that era, he spoke to a lot of people. I have a feeling what you're coming down to is the difference between one man being an entertainer, who really had a heart for, although he did some great movies, and I love Dan Curtis's work, and he did a trilogy of terror, he did, was it War and Peace or War and Remembrance or whatever it was.
Both of them, Winds of War and War and Remembrance. Brilliant.
Those great big movies, but he was not a longevity, create art, which is obvious by the way he treated his writers. Let's create art, let's create something that resonates with mankind and all of this. He was more like, let's get some blood, let's get some violence, like Irwin Allen. Let's get some explosions, let's get an alien of the week, let's get that, Fred was creating something that men and people of all types could relate to. If anybody ever finds this out about me, then this is the end. Or even I hate myself for what I'm doing, but I can't stop it. That's what made Barnabas. If not the fact, there's a lot of that. Nobody wants to watch a television show about fucking Janusz Skorzeny. Can you imagine if they did a Night Stalker show and it was just about him?
Right.
He was a marauder. He was a marauder, and he killed a Doberman. So he killed a dog. So nobody wants to see that in the end. Frid, even the animals, Barnabas didn't do it. He did it to save people's lives. If you look at the guy, what he's doing, it's horrendous to Willie, and he's making Willie do it because he's a man of the 1700s, and that's what the men of that era would have done. You get your servant to do it. I don't do it. I'm not going to soil my hands on that. But at the same time, he's doing it to save people's lives.
Exactly.
I don't want to feed on people. So no, it was definitely Jonathan Frid, in my opinion, my humble opinion. Yeah. As an actor, it was 1,000%. And look, that's what we love.
Yes.
We want to, that's who and what we love, not the marauder. but the tortured
Old Barney Boo, as I refer to him. old Barney
yeah.
Boo.
We have a comment from Mark Smith. Mark says, "I felt there was not enough Laura Parker in Night of Dark Shadows."
Oh, Mark. I mean,
is
Mark,
there
you're
ever
right.
enough Laura Parker?
But you're right on the money. Laura was wasted, and I said that to because she was a good sport about it. You know, when I said, look, you know, she was talking about the process of the restoration and all of that. I said, you know, I'm not a fan. And I was so appalled. She's like, it's okay. You don't have to like it. She's like, what? I said, well, first of all, you're hardly in it. Even putting the cutscenes into it, they're using your eyes and all of that, but we wanted more of the Angelique that we knew. Which, had they done Curse of Dark Shadows, seemingly what was going to be the Vampire Curse storyline, had Frid agreed to do another film, that would have been wonderful. But, and I joked with her. I said, you know, when I run out of Unisom, I just put on Night of Dark Shadows. They don't call it Nods for nothing. I mean, I'll give you an example, kids, and for those of you who love it, I'm glad that you love it. There is a Nods ripoff called Death at Love House with Kate Jackson and Robert Wagner, and essentially it's Kate Jackson and Robert Wagner as Claire and Alex Jenkins, Sylvia Sidney as Grayson Hall, the housekeeper, in this wonderful movie star's house, blonde, very much like Laura Parker. And that movie is delicious. I mean, it's you can watch it. 5 people have uploaded it onto YouTube. That's more fun to me than Night of Dark Shadows. At the same time, 2 weeks ago, I watched The Night Stalker, and I'm like, Dan, this was great. You kept it going. It was, yeah, Yano says no, he's no Barnabas Collins because he really is a predator. But still with Kolchak.
Gary McGavin.
Yes. It's moving and it's fun and it's going along and it's great, which is not for me what Night of Dark Shadows is.
Well, you know, and what you're saying, let's take it back to what we were saying about deep dive snarling villainy. If you left, if Miss Parker had left Angelique as she was, and the writers, in those early days in the 1700s, she'd have been interesting, but not as interesting until they started including little bits of humanity in her.
Yeah.
You know, and to this day, people still, like we've talked about this. People don't see Angelique as a villain. She killed the whole family. Both Angeliques tried to wipe out the entire Collins family. If Victoria Winters, if Sarah, I guess Sarah intervened in the revival.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Sarah or not who intervened in the original series. If whatever power that be hadn't intervened in the 1960s series, the Collins family would have died. We didn't really start to love, you really started to love Angelique when she loosened up a little bit. You started to understand her, because if you don't, it just becomes a predator. If you don't relate on some level with them, because really inside we're all villains in our own way. You know, we've all done things and we think, but I did it because of this, or I do it because of that, or I'm really not that, or I'm really. So we get that, but that's why the other guys are so dull after about 25 minutes or so. And it's the same skills are used in all 3 of those movies. Let's focus on the eyes, some eerie background. You follow the victim as though you're following from the monster's point of view. All right, let's show the feet picking up pace. All 3 of them, Angelique, Barnabas, and Janos. It's the same kind of formula, which works for about an hour, but then adios.
Yeah.
Not going to do a whole series.
I'll throw this out there just quickly. For me, I thought, why didn't he do 1897 as a movie? That would have been the movie. If he didn't have Frid, and could you imagine Grayson on the big screen as Magda, and they could have immediately brought in Count Petofi, so you would have had Thayer as Count Petofi. They would have figured something out with Laura, because I don't think she would have worked in the same way she did. Which, by the way, 1897 is when Angelique becomes in the ilk of Barnabas and that's when the shift happens.
Right.
Up
She
until
even
that
become
point,
friends with Julia.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I personally, I don't know what it is about those moments between Grayson and Laura Parker. I love those moments. Like when Cassandra first shows up, her and Dr. Hoffman immediately get along. Like they're getting along very well. She even tells her, "Don't worry about these inbred New England families and all of this kind of thing." And then later on, they become friends. And I think, doesn't Angelique even mention it, that Julia and I became friends? I know Julia. We became friends in 1890 when we were dealing with Patolfi. We became friends, or something along those lines.
There's something
I
along
think she brings
that,
it up.
and David, she know, yeah,
I
you
care
forget,
about
I knew,
David, too.
I care about David too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, these are the things. I mean, it's the villain, yes, but you love the same with Dr. Smith. He gave the kid away. He was going to kill the entire family. That's not going to last. So now we got to make it a guy who, okay, maybe I did something wrong. Let me try and fix this a little bit. Let me try and redeem myself a little bit. You know,
And here you've got two Jonathans. You have Jonathan Frid and they I mean, different poles, because he said,
right.
I knew I had to make him funny, and I started to sneak the funny stuff in there. Otherwise, that was gonna be it.
5 segments and I'm out.
And I'm out.
You know, so it's true. It is absolute. People want somebody they like. They don't want a bastard in there. Nobody. Like, to be honest with you, I can remember as a kid, Cliff Barnes. My parents would always watch Dallas as a kid, and Cliff Barnes would get on. He was just a whiny, and he never. The guy did his job, I guess, because you didn't like him. I guess that was the point. But he was just a whiny villain who was always just trying to stick it to the family, stick it to the family, stick it to the. No.
But you love JR. But you love JR.
You love JR.
You love JR.
We have a
And
comment.
he's the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
We have a comment from Adana. She says, Mr. Frid definitely created the Barnabas that we all loved. Curtis would have had the bloodthirsty animal from the movie. Ooh.
Yeah, it just wouldn't have. Again, that's why I bring it back to Night of Dark Shadows. And I would have loved to have seen 1897 on the big screen. And yes, it would have been Alex Stevens as the Lon Chaney werewolf, and Curtis. Again, this was something Curtis didn't want. He fought tooth and nail. He did not want a werewolf. He finally gave in, and apparently, according to Danielle, to Penny, he didn't want the mummy. They had pitched it, and he did not want a mummy, and that was going to be the next thing they would have had to have gone to, had they stayed on the air.
It did in the book, didn't it? They didn't really write a book about Barnabas Quentin and the Mummy's Curse.
And the mummy, yeah, the Marilyn Ross. It's a Marilyn Ross novel, yeah.
You know, another point I'd like to bring up, since we were talking about the Depp movie a little bit, is you might like the movie, you might not. But what we're talking about right now, to their credit, even though we agree that they handled it maybe wrong or they went about it in the wrong way, Burton and Depp, I guess, as fans, understood what we were talking about, because those are all of the characteristics about Barnabas that they tried to bring to light or to lean on in the movie. His dedication to family, his love for David, his his hurt over the loss of it. They tried to lean into all that. They just took too comical an approach. But to their credit, they recognized the big houses, the opulent jewelry, the grand gesture, and the fact that he was a devoted Collins. He even said, what did he say in the tomb? I know because I'm a Collins.
With Chris. I know all about my family history.
How do you know all this? I'm a Collins, and
that's one of my favorite scenes, by the way, when he takes him into the mausoleum, because he knows what it's like.
That's a huge part of the show for me too. That Barnabas gets Chris.
Yeah.
That's why even Julia wants to drop him like a hot potato a few times, and Barnabas gets him. No, that's the big red flag for Julia when Barnabas comes back from 1897 and he's been corrupted by the Leviathan. What do you mean you don't care about him anymore? It's
or the morning after he's brought him back to the cottage, and they open the door, and and you all you've seen is gloves. You see these gloves pittering around the house, and there's Freddie goes, "What are you doing here?" And Chris is like, "What is she doing here?" Don't be so alarmed, Chris. I know your secret.
Right. I just hope whoever they get to, I hope they have her, they get the right person to voice
Yeah.
Grace in it. If they don't, I just hope they go for the right, she's an icon.
Oh my
She's
God,
really
yes. Grace, I think you've got, we've got the Fab Five. You've got Barnabas, Quentin, Angelique, Julia, and Stokes. Those are the Fab
Stokes.
Five.
Elizabeth.
I'd like to see Roger heavily, more heavily involved. I remember getting excited when I thought he was really going to get involved with the Leviathan storyline.
For 2 minutes.
He just got hit in the head or something. Yeah, and then it was like, oh. Oh, okay.
But you brought up a point too. I meant to say this earlier. We're talking about Ben Cross. He wanted to watch the show. He wanted to get the tapes, and Curtis said, "No, don't. I don't want you to watch it." So, the thing about and I think maybe someone tipped him off because it's not as resonant. Although you do fall in love with him, he doesn't have as much vulnerability as Jonathan had in the role. It comes. And I think someone must have said, you realize the guy that played the part originally, yada yada boo boo. But look at Johnny Depp, and again, putting the script aside, and that he gets all of Jonathan's vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
That's even though it's satire, he still imbues the vulnerability into the role.
I've always said that that Ben Cross had a kind of a more fierce
feral
take, and like when they said, well, this isn't going to be a duel, it's going to be an assassination. He can't outgun his brother. His brother could never outgun him, and all of that was there. But what was missing? Like the fact that, like I said, he was devoted to not just Gisette, the entire family. You don't get that sense, and I love Ben Cross, and I love the revival. You didn't get the same sense of devotion to family and to all of that as you did in the original, maybe perhaps because they didn't have time.
Right.
You got the original cold, like with David, for example. We're talking about Barnabas and David, which in Miss Parker's novels is a huge deal. It talks about Barnabas loving David almost like a son at one point in all of this. You don't get that. You get when he was kind of cold. Who is this Sarah? On the contrary, I'd like to know who this Sarah is.
Yeah.
Young man, and all of that. But there's no like real, and that's an important. It was to the point where in the werewolf timeline in the beginning when David gets that new toy, it seems so real. He's throwing the toy and throwing the toy. You've got Barnabas trying to solve this mysterious supernatural riddle. And he's, David, do you have to do that in here? And David goes, and I don't know if he forgot his line and it was the first thing he could think of or what, but it's so real. He says, why? Am I getting on your nerves? And he's looking, he goes, yes. He's going like that. That's real, though. That's a real sense of family that you got. And like
well,
said,
even in the, I think it's in the Leviathan storyline that at one point, this is happening and that's happening and this is happening. And Julia walks into the old house and says, Barnabas, and he's like, oh, now what?
right.
He goes, oh, now what? And even Julia, when she's trying to learn the notes and the dream curse and everything, and he's badgering her, and she finally goes, Barnabas, please, leave me alone, Barnabas.
How many of you, my best for the Italians out there, how many of you as a child tried to ask a question to your mother or grandmother 50 times, and they just continued what they were doing like they didn't hear you, until finally they blow up. What? You didn't say a word. I asked you like 50 times. You feel that stuff in those shows, and it's great. I hope that they stay loyal to all that stuff.
Oh, me too.
I wouldn't mind if they got him to voice Barnabas. I don't know if he would, but that would be great. He has the voice. He even does the S's.
And he does the S's. He does the S's. The drawn out T's. Yeah.
I mean,
drawn out T's.
he's been paying attention. So I would love to see. I understand there's also a Murder She Wrote reboot with.
Now, I was
Jamie
going to
Lee
mention
Curtis.
this. It's important to bring this up. I'm glad you said that, Michael.
Yeah.
We've got just 7 days from today. We have the new Little House on the Prairie. Now, this is big stuff. I mean, these people had 18,000 people show up in Simi Valley last year for the 50th anniversary. They are booked all over the United States. Allison Arngrim, who played Nellie, who's a sweetheart. Their podcast is so much fun. I love watching. It's Allison and Dean Butler, who played Almanzo, and a wonderful fan, Pam. Oh, her name just flew out of my head. Pamela. She actually did. This is hysterical. She did a web series about a woman who is so obsessed with Little House on the Prairie that she measures everything in her life, her husband, her this, her that, to Little House on the Prairie. Is it called Surviving the Prairie? I want to say that's the name of the series. Pam, I'm sorry if I screwed it up. And she actually got people, including Allison. Allison came on as her psychiatrist to say to her, you realize that you're comparing everybody to Little House on the Prairie, and this isn't good. I mean, it's hysterical that Allison Arngrim shows up as her psychiatrist. But at any rate, in 7 days, they're going to be a new Little House. Now, it's a little different because Little House was based on real people. And they were based on books that the real woman wrote. Now, when Michael Landon did it, one, he only had permission to use so many books, and he decided he was going to create things. And he created this phenomenon that he said to Allison and Patrick Laborto one day in the commissary. He said, I'll tell you something. They were filming next to Mork and Mindy, and I love Robin Williams. He said, no one's going to remember Mork and Mindy. What we're doing is going to be going long after I'm dead. And here they are, 18,000 people showing up for a convention in Simi Valley in the summertime. And now there's this new series, and the thing is, Allison and Dean and all of them, all of the original, they're saying, you've got to give it a chance, guys, meaning the fans. We've got, the minute they announced the new Nellie Olson, who will be in season 2, not season 1, and they've already greenlit season 2, Allison put the girl's picture up and she said, I bow to you, my successor, and everybody's got to give it a chance. You can't go in hating it. You got to give it a chance.
Give the other guy a chance.
Yeah,
Right.
you got to give the other guy a chance. And it's the same thing with Dark Shadows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with you a whole
We
lot.
have a comment
Look,
from Pam. Pam says, I guess if the 91 series continued, Barnabas and Julia would have a romance. I'm not so sure about that. I think it would have been unrequited love. I think
Yeah,
Barbara Steele would
they
love
weren't.
Ben Cross to get in bed with her, but
I think it would have been a lot of people want that, Pam, by the way. Even on the original series, they wanted Grayson and Jonathan to wind up together. But I think particularly in that 91 series, the bond to Josette, and this is something we forget even in the original show, which Laura brought up. Reverend Trask shoots me, and all of a sudden in milliseconds, I love you, you were really the real love of my life. And she said, cop out. It was the writers had to get us off because they knew we weren't coming back. Had the show not been canceled, they never would have done that. Catherine would have come back eventually. That damn music box would have come out again, even though Michael Stroka stole it. And for a girlfriend. I don't know what they were going to do, but yeah, that's what happened in the music. That's what happened in the music box. But that's what was so great about the 91 series is they reverted back to Josette was the love of his life. And lest we forget, even on the original series, when the Reverend Trask bricks him up in the wall, who is it that leads Julia down to the wall to find him? Josette.
And who stays to look after the family? Josette.
And then when he goes to save Vicky for that week in 1796 with Carolyn Groves as Vicky, and he doesn't show up, and Julia's worried, and all of a sudden, Willie hears the sobbing, and he looks at the staircase, and who's warning him about Barnabas? Josette. So, no matter what anybody says to me, I believe that Josette was the true love of his life.
Well, there's that whole thing about, no love so strong as the love you never really have. And they never really got together. It was never really, the circle was never completed. And the thing with Angelique's curse is, nor will it ever be. That nor will it ever be. So you're going to have, and I agree with you. I mean, I love Angelique, and I wouldn't see her go anywhere.
No.
I mean, we love. I mean, it's a little strong a word. All of that you did in the name of love. You killed my baby sister. You made my mother commit suicide. You killed my fiance.
My uncle.
You broke my father down, the strongest man I've known. You broke him. I'm struggling with your definition of word love.
Yeah.
So, as much as I love her, I don't see her. And anytime she did anything, and I love when they work together. I love, except
chemistry.
for perhaps the Leviathan segment. Anything she did for him came with a cost. There's an old Sicilian expression: when the devil's nice to you, he wants your soul.
Yeah.
Everything she ever did, aside from the Leviathan, and even that came with a price. I want Quentin. Like, how many? What's that lewd expression? Sloppy seconds. Like, how many people in this family are you trying to get in the kitty? I mean, kind of gross. Getting kind of gross now. I mean, good lord. But Josette, even though we've agreed on which Josette personality-wise I like better.
Sure.
I love Joanna Going's Josette way more than I like Catherine Lee Scott, but she was supposed to be a kid, a spoiled rich kid. So
it was on the page. It was on the page.
Yeah.
That's why when we talk about a redo, if they were to go back and redo the show from day one, I go, it's kind of with Little House. Now with Little House, they go, no, remember guys, this is not Michael Landon's Little House. We're going back to the books. Right. We're going back to the books. There's a lot of information about the Collins family, particularly Josette, in 1966 and early 1967, even a few weeks before they go back in time. There are things that a new series could do with all of that lore that was created that was not done on the original show.
Yep.
How she came to the house, the fact that the town hated her because she was a foreigner. Jeremiah was not particularly nice to her. She was kind of like a trophy bride.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention, I'd like to see the Swords of the Ring and the Cane. At last. So, where we're talking about a town that was newly, I almost assumed he would have had to have gotten at least one of them on his many travels, back to Martinique and back and forth. I would love to see some answers to those questions. There were hints in the audio dramas that some of the familial problems were the result of Joshua engaging in munitions trade and slave trade.
Sure.
Or someone perhaps prior to Joshua engaging in Caleb Collins.
Caleb
Joshua's
Collins.
father. In slave trade and also there is so much that you could do with this, so much material out there, the building of the new house,
and the catacombs, because remember Sarah says to Maggie, she knows about it because of her father.
Yeah.
She knows about that secret passageway because of her father, and nobody's supposed to know, including Barnabas, and obviously Barnabas didn't know.
Right.
Sarah stumbled upon it, so, she, slave trade or mistresses.
Right.
That's what a lot of these things
back then did it.
They all did it.
They had these passageways built for those reasons, baby. You know?
If somebody was accused of being a witch, that was another reason why you had secret passageways, so you could get them out or at least hide them for a period of time.
Religion, there's so many things that so many opportunities that they could go back and reboot the whole thing from scratch, from the very beginning of the original, and have so many more new stories based on stuff that you're talking about that writers had put in. The source of the Collins family treasure, the pirate.
Yep.
Let's talk
pirate.
about that for 5 minutes.
Right.
Naomi's past. Let's talk about why Abigail's such a bitch on wheels. What happened to her? You know, what's her friggin' beef? Or
She's a
even
frustrated.
Reverend Trask.
She is a very frustrated woman. Let's put it that way.
Reverend Trask, what's his story? You know, there's so much they're going to be able, and with being animated, they don't have to worry about sets, you know, and all that kind of stuff. They can just draw up what they think, and like you said, keep it to the flavor of the original series.
Yeah.
But draw it up, you know. It's going to be, you know, there's lots of space for new stuff. And the show
again,
is so
there's a blitzkrieg of stuff coming out. You've got the Dark Shadows Noir. You've got the Dark Shadows Legacy book. Patrick McRae has written his third Dark Shadows Day book. I think it's called Dark Shadows Triumphant. That's coming out in time for the festival. Yours truly is doing a cabaret show called Barnabas and Me and My Dark Shadows, which was inspired years ago by a lovely gentleman named Craig Hamrick, who was very good friends with Nancy Barrett. He actually hooked Nancy and us up. And he was very close with Louis Edmonds. There's the artwork.
Oh, wow.
One of the artworks for the show. So it's this is from a fan's perspective. I talk about what the show meant to me, why it was such a great escape as a queer kid. And even now, as an older queer bisexual male, why this show resonates with me and why Barnabas and Angelique and Julia and company were so important to me. There'll be trivia in it for the off the street Dark Shadows fan. And you know, Dark Shadows was scheduled to be a Broadway musical. Playbill announced it in 2000 or 2001. Robert Cobert and Rupert Holmes, who wrote The Mystery of Edwin Drood, were going to do the music together. And nothing ever happened with it. And once that happened, you know, Lamar loved musicals. And we would talk about what would a Dark Shadows musical be like and what would the characters sing. And in my own cabaret shows, I would incorporate that in there. For example, there's a beautiful song from Beauty and the Beast, the musical, called If I Can't Love Her. And in my show, I took the audience into Barnabas, who has been told anyone who loves you will die. And anyone who you love will die. And we wound it in, and Don Grigware of Broadway World loved it. So that's a little of what you'll get in this show, is I've selected songs for the characters. If you were to see them in a Broadway musical, what would Victoria Winter sing when she's on the train? What would Barnabas sing upon finding out that he's a vampire? I've pulled all of these from pre-existing Broadway shows. And then there's some fun filk songs in there as well that have fun with the characters, and a section of the show called Shadowed Impressions. I don't know. I don't know what that'll be. So
leave me alone.
Barnabas, please leave me alone. So that'll be towards the end of the summer or beginning of the fall. But yeah, that's something that, and Craig, who wrote Barnabas and Company, the wonderful book, Barnabas and Company, and Big Louis Edmonds' biography / autobiography, he encouraged me to do the show. Lamar encouraged me to do the show, and so we're going to do the show at long last.
He's writing the book. They keep asking me about the book. He's writing the book.
Right, the book. Yeah,
It's going to be amazing. I love the
there's
art,
a lot.
by the way, on the front. It's reminiscent of, I guess it was Filmation. Who did the old Hobbit and Return of the King cartoons? Rankin and Bass.
Rankin and
That
Bass.
animation was, that reminded me a little bit. That animation was brilliant too. I wouldn't mind saying they had an eye for detail, man. The beautiful lines and all that. That has that kind of those big pretty eyes. You know, had the kind of thing.
They also did a wonderful sequel, an unauthorized sequel to The Wizard of Oz. Filmation did, called Journey Back to Oz.
Oh yeah.
with
With
Liza.
Ethel Merman, right?
Ethel Merman and
Right.
Liza. It was 16-year-old Liza Minnelli, taking over her mother's role. Judy actually had to sign off on that because she was still underage. So my friend Steve had the contract, and he said, I never got to see it, but he said it's so fun to look at it. It's kind of like a passing of the torch that you see Judy giving her permission for Liza to play Dorothy. And it didn't come out until 1974 because they lost funding for the animation.
Really? I remember
Yeah.
that very well. That call with Milton Berle and Danny Thomas and
Yep.
big star
Mickey Rooney.
star cast. Yeah, Mickey Rooney.
Margaret
Big
Hamilton
star
as
cast.
Auntie M this time. She played Auntie M this time around. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit what that John created the poster for that. He did a beautiful job.
That was you?
That was John.
Artwork. I love the look of that. It's great. Even the way Barnabas is holding his cane looks like the way he held it in the show. With the thumb and all out in the background.
And that's the alternate artwork too. That didn't have the Inverness coat.
No,
No.
we have a separate one.
We have a separate one with the Inverness coat. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot. It's Dark Shadows ain't going anywhere. It's just not.
Well, that's the thing. We've talked about this 1,000. Like, what took so long? What is taking for people to realize? And I don't mean to sound like make it sound cheap, but it's a moneymaker.
Yeah.
I tell I know a lot of young people. We talk about horror films and all of this, and I'll say, have you ever seen Dark Shadows? Do you know Dark? If you want to check something out that has all of the gothic, but it takes place in the United States, you've got to watch Dark Shadows. People watch it and love it still. And if you as an actor, you really, as far as the whole thing being live, you gain, at least I gained so much more respect for their acting ability once I started acting. When something goes up and it's not supposed to, or somebody who you're acting with loses a line, or you lose a line, you have so much more respect for what they did, what they were able to pull off.
In one day, where they had, maybe 3 rehearsals if they were lucky.
I mean, and that's the blocking. People don't realize you have to learn how to block what you're doing in one day. Stand where you're supposed to stand, move where you're supposed to move, grab what you're supposed to grab. They really did a hell of a... How they didn't have more heart attacks on that show, I don't know. But they really did a hell of a work.
One of the things I want to mention about the anniversary too that's kind of upset me, and with all due reverence to the man, there's been so much of this in the artwork, and I feel like Alexandra is not getting her due, and there would be no Dark Shadows without Victoria Winters, because let's face it, folks, he dreamed about a girl on a train, not a vampire chained in a coffin.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of feel like I wish people, that one woman, not Janet Thompson, gonna get her name wrong, she's in the groups. She did this beautiful artwork of Alexandra's face, but kind of a lapse into the train going around the cliffs. And it was, I said, this is so refreshing because everyone's putting up pictures of Barnabas, and in reality, his 50th anniversary, 60th anniversary isn't until next year.
Next year, a whole year later. Yeah.
We're celebrating the show, but come on, and Vicky gets a bad rap. I love Vicky. I love Alexandra.
You have to have character. I mean, you can't all be on the same page as a character. What is it Tom Holland says about Fright Night, where Charlie Brewster is the engine, Peter Vincent is his heart, or Charlie is the story? You have to have different characters doing different things. They perform a different function, and Vicky performed her function in Alexandra very well.
And she was likable.
You feel it when she leaves.
Yeah, you do.
You really, because Maggie is a whole other soul.
Yeah.
Maggie is a whole other beast, and I love Maggie, and I think, Ms. Scott did a brilliant job. I'm not knocking from that, but I also don't want to detract from the fact that you do feel a difference when Vicky leaves the show. There's something missing. You can, it's tangible. So,
and the only thing the only thing that saved it was that Frid was such a presence and he had become such a force.
Right.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have worked.
Right.
It would have really crippled the show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't get enough, and she's also one step ahead. I mean, if you got to go back to the first year, and she's one step ahead with Matthew, and that gets her into trouble, which is what happens in Gothic novels. She's one step ahead with Laura, even though at first, as an orphan, it's like, well, this is your mother and she loves you, and then she starts to put the pieces of and Josette gets involved. Josette starts to use her as her medium. And even with Barnabas, because they're doing the Lucy Mina thing, when he tells the story of Josette's death, and he says, they found her body on the rocks below, lifeless, bloodless. And Carolyn leaves and she goes, it's odd to me that you choose the word bloodless because of everything that's been going on with Maggie Evans. And he says, you're a very clever girl, Miss Winters. Be careful that what happened to Miss Evans doesn't happen to you.
Mm.
And
you're a wise man, but not wise enough to return to Holland now that you have learned what you have learned. Yeah.
So while they were still going to axe him, obviously Vicky was the one who was going to put the pieces together. That's what I read out of that scene.
Also, a minor detail, she did, both versions of Victoria, did save the entire Collins family.
Yes, she did.
Daniel would have died if she had not been there in the revival to say, what? No, you don't treat a fever like that.
Ice.
You've got to cool him down. Get ice. And then her involvement in the original series in 1795. So I wouldn't beat her up too much. You wouldn't have any of them around if she hadn't done what she'd done,
Exactly.
Just really quickly, I have to jump in here. I made a mistake earlier when I said that this was Adana. It's actually Renee. So Renee writes, I always say that Angelique is like the ex-girlfriend in the South who put a dead opossum in your truck.
That's true. That's not.
You're
I mean,
not wrong,
here.
baby.
No, I mean, look in the new series, Lizette. She said my Angelique is very much like Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction, only she does a lot worse than stewing rabbits.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because her
You won't go
Angelique was what Dan Curtis wanted. All these people, Frid, Parker, Hall, they all did something inadvertently that gave them a longer lease on life. Laura didn't want to be the heavy, so what did she do? She cried. She cried, and she gave these sullen looks, and so there was a part of you that you felt bad for Angelique, and it gave her dimension.
Yeah.
Because she was supposed to be killed off. They went to her and said, that's it, you're done. And the fan mail came in, and they were like, actually, no, you're not. You're coming back in a black wig in a few weeks.
Right. Can you come here, please?
Yeah. Grayson decided, I'm in love with Barnabas. That's it. She falls in love with this man. The writers didn't come up with that. Grayson came up with that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she brought in the subtext.
That's good. I know a lot of fans feel sorry for Julia because it never really happened, and she put that in there. So that's actually kind of cool.
And it's true what you say, Michael. I mean, Julia, I would say Julia and Angelique are a good even match. And I also think that's one of the reasons why it drives Barnabas so crazy, particularly in the present day. If we're going back in his mind, okay, it was a broad who stuck me in this situation to begin with and was dictating this, that, and the other. Now I've got this one who's going to cure me and telling me you can't talk to her. You
Right.
can't do this, you can't do that. It was like the yin and the yang there a little bit with Julia and Angelique. The woman of magic and the woman of science. One who put him in the situation and the one who was supposed to get him out of it.
Right.
Julia was one tough bag of bones, man. I mean, I can't think of another character on the show that was, as a mortal, she went after all of them. She went after Nicholas Blair. She went after, and she slapped Angelique or Cassandra. She said, "Who made him that way?"
Who made him that way?
She went toe to toe with Blair, Patofi, Gerard. She had trouble with Gerard, but I mean, she wasn't. She was upset about. She was not upset about her. She was upset about her making trouble for Barnabas as a result of Gerard. So she was a strong ass. I mean, she was a force to be reckoned with. And again, like you mentioned, here's another one he can't control.
Yeah.
You know, he's used to being in control. I'm the boss around here, but no matter what he did, Julia was like always ahead of him. So
always ahead of him. Yeah. Should talk about someone who would have been a good Jessica Fletcher. And you mentioned that's another thing. This movie that they're doing, it's Jamie Lee Curtis, and comes out next year. I think right after the holidays, actually. And she said, "I'm not impersonating. We're not doing that, but I will be doing an homage to Angela, and they've gotten as many people, I believe, as they can to do cameos. Whoever's around." The guy that played her nephew, Grady, he's in the movie. So she said, you know, it's going to be my take on Jessica Fletcher, but I will be paying as much homage as I can to Angela Lansbury, which I think is great.
That's exactly, I think that's wonderful too. It's not impersonation, but she's doing her best to tip her hat.
Yeah.
To the original. Yeah.
But it's funny when you mention Julia, and I'm like, yeah, she was kind of a Jessica Fletcher because she was always poking in.
As was Vicky in her own way. You know, I mean, she kept falling into it, but she was was the Forrest Gump of Jessica Fletcher. But she did, walking through and things were falling down around her, but she made it out. She navigated it well.
Yeah.
I just hope that they keep the passion. I hope whoever is involved, you know, the passion for the original series is in their heart too, and that they listen to the fans. You know, how many series and reboots are going to be done in because you have somebody who refuses to acknowledge that the fans might also be artistic and may also have something to contribute.
Yeah.
You know, Lost in Space, they would do things that made no sense. The key about that was the family. Well, the mother couldn't stand the father in the new show. The mother was angry with the father because he was never home. It was a Navy SEAL, so I think you kind of would have had that feeling, a sense about that before you got married. They almost treated him like a Peter Griffin, Homer Simpson kind of. She almost made him dumb. Her, not the character, but she almost made him look like a more. I mean, just you start screwing up when you start putting in those. There's no need for that.
Yeah, we have a new viewer
Stick
comment.
with what works.
New viewer comment from Lynn Mulcahy. She says both Julia and Angelique were obsessed with Barnabas. Seems to me that each wanted to control him.
Oh, without question, without question. And Julia did it more early on. Again, it's one of my favorite scenes when he totally flips. He goes apeshit. You know, if the modern man is willing to put up with your kind of woman, that's his problem. But I will have none of it. Have I made myself clear? And she's like, yes, you made your point.
I love that because I think to myself, my God, only a person born in 1795 would get it. You know, he calls her pushy or whatever, and then I wonder if she's going to be strangled as much in the she was by him in the beginning. Every time he'd get upset about something, he'd start choking her.
I think Barney was into BDSM.
Something was going on there.
Yeah.
It was like, oof.
Yeah.
I hope they they have the same sort of sense of fog, although it's not, but the fog and the geography of the series, you know, where you could, like in Miss Parker's books, you could honestly see
absolutely
the layout.
Yeah.
You can see it in all of her books. You see Collinwood, you see the housing, you see all of this stuff. I hope that they have that kind of feel for the show, that kind of respect for where the houses should be placed, that Barnabas should be in walking distance to. and then Eagle Hill and all of that kind of thing. These are all things that would be great.
Well, then,
that
and
they
then
would remember.
now what I love about right, Eagle Hill is 30 minutes away, outside of town, and then when they're trying to get Chris there, oh, the car is at the front gate. You know, we can be there in less than 5 minutes.
Julia, when Barnabas, then they hear the bells wherever
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth is. Bong, 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 bong. They're no sooner out of the door, but are they into the mausoleum? Carolyn!
They asked Catherine this. It was a young girl. It was hysterical. She's like, I just want to know, Wincliffe is 100 miles outside of Collinsport, but yet you and Sarah walked there in about 5 minutes. And Catherine was speechless. Well, this is where the fan geek in me comes out. Sarah being a ghost, there was a cut scene where a truck driver picks them up and actually drives them into Collinsport. And they didn't have time to film it, so it's in the script, but it was cut. And I think there was supposed to be a moment where Sarah's there and then she's not, and he gets all wigged out, like Sarah's there and all of a sudden she's gone.
Right.
So this was something they had written, but they didn't have time to film it. But if they did walk there, Sarah being a ghost, she would have propelled them, like in Christmas Carol. You know how the ghosts do it all in one? She would have propelled them to the blue whale, like in moments.
I'd like to see them lean a little bit on Sarah being scary, ghostly.
Ghostly.
You know, a little bit like you said about the truck driver being wigged out, that there was a girl here and now she's not. I'd like to see them lean on that a little bit, because I think it drives home that when she gets strong-willed with Barnabas, that she's got that Collins streak.
Yeah.
Also.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, like it's going to be this way and that's the end of it. You know, I'm not dealing with this bullshit anymore. And I hope they keep the relationships like they did in the revival. The Dupreys are good people.
Yeah.
Sarah, Barnabas, and Jeremiah are siblings, not Joshua. And I hope they play it like that too.
Yeah. Yep. There was something. Well, of course, Laura got them mixed up with the KKK. That was great. And
the mafia and everything else.
Yeah.
Right?
That was, and again, well, where did they hide the alcohol? Oh, it's got to be in the secret room. Little do they know.
I would love this Elizabeth Quentin thing explored a little bit, and the Elizabeth. I still say 1,000 times over. So much credit to Miss Parker for nodding to Joan Bennett's career.
Yeah.
In her books, and that Elizabeth was indeed a burgeoning, whatever, movie star for a while, and that let's see some of that. I mean, Elizabeth's life is kind of like she got involved with a guy and then got stuck in the house. Let's not do the Miss Havisham thing. Let's do the the movie star thing. You know, let's see what she was like, and then the pistolier during Prohibition and all that. I'd love to see that side of her.
Thank you. Is that Renee?
Yeah.
Renee. Jolynn Thompson. She did this beautiful artwork. Go on she put it in different rooms, guys. It's a beautiful picture of Vicky lapsed into the train and happy 60th anniversary. It's lovely artwork. Jolynn Thompson is her name. Thank you, Renee. And then my show. It'll be in Massachusetts. It'll be in LA. Anywhere I can do it is where we will bring the show. And as I mentioned to somebody on my wall, it's so malleable because this is my own personal memories. Remember, I started going to the festivals in 1990. That's when I met Laura. I was a little boy. I was 12 years old, and I looked about 8. There's a picture of me somewhere. I have to pull it out in my little handmade Barnabas cape that my grandma made me, and a wooden cane that looked nothing like this. I painted it with silver nail polish to make the top look silver. So this is like the stuff that's going to be in the show, along with the musical numbers, and then as you saw on the poster, of everybody, and I've had a wonderful relationship with Marie Wallace. We love Marie, but Lamar was like mom. She really was like a mom to both of us. so supportive of our work, so supportive of my work. So like pretty much the last 20 minutes or so of the show will be a tribute to Lamar. Just wonderful. That picture is the Q&A after Mrs. Scrooge. I wrote a modern retelling of A Christmas Carol for her. She flew in and did it. This was the Q&A afterwards. You see me with my blonde hair there. I had actually been very sick for months before that, and I was very pale and very underweight. I had just been finally diagnosed with very bad reflux. I lost 30 pounds in a month. I don't know, is the other picture there, John?
I do have it.
There's a picture from the show itself. Where is that?
I'm getting it.
But she was a sweetheart. I wrote this thing. She was teaching English. There it is.
That's her as Mrs. Scrooge with the Ghost of Christmas.
Aaron Lee Battle playing the Ghost of Christmas Present. And there we are at the Producers Club. There's that little black box theater. There were about 12 people behind that flat that you're looking at.
12 cast members.
12 cast members. And the screen, there were Easter eggs. The school, when she's with the Ghost of Christmas Past. And she turns around and looks at the screen, and it's Seaview Terrace.
You could see it
you
there.
know,
it's there in shadow.
And you know, and the Dark Shadows fans in the audience ate it up. There were just all these. I put in as many Easter eggs as I could, and we have it on video. It's in a box somewhere, and once we find it, we're going to transfer it and hopefully be able to use it to raise money for charity.
Yeah,
because there is a film of it. So
you sure should.
And then, to make people laugh, this is one of my memories from Dark Shadows. This is me and Peter at a festival.
Oh.
That's Peter on the right. That's me right next to Peter. And that's Denise Nickerson giving me a lap dance.
That is Blueberry Girl Amy Jennings giving my husband a lap dance in the bar at
the
New
Westchester.
Jersey. No, New Jersey. Or was it Tarrytown?
It was Westchester Marriott.
Was it the Westchester?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was Amy Jennings giving DJ Schaefer a lap dance in the bar.
And the late great Beth Hyde
Beth
Hood.
Hyde Hood. Wish Beth was still with us. And Eileen Ferrara in the very far left there. Funny lady. She's still with us. She's a hoot. Eileen is a hoot. So that's stuff that will be I'll be talking about in the show. So look for it. It'll be around.
Laura Parker was a beautiful woman, wasn't she? I was looking at
Oh
her
God,
in
yes.
pictures. She really did not age until she got ill, I think.
Until the illness really, it was the I really think not even so much the Parkinson's. The Parkinson's, I think, slowed her down. But the she didn't count on getting cancer, and I think that's.
I was looking at her even in the Johnny Depp movie, and when they make their entrance, I mean, it is very clear that she is still. I mean, like I said, no age. Well, really, I don't know. David Selby either at that point looked. It just had some gray hair, and Miss Scott always looks phenomenal as well. Petite.
Yes. No, Catherine, I mean, with her white hair, she's,
Still, her face looks, very
Marie,
much.
Marie has just turned 90, and Marie looks amazing. 91, and Marie looks amazing.
I think, was it Dana Wandry? Is that how you say her last name?
Donna Wandry, yep.
Donna Wandry, I think, is a dead ringer, and if I were to ever if I had spoke about the dream casting, Millie Bobby Brown would play Roxanne. I think Millie Bobby Brown looks just like her.
She'd be great.
They look very, very similar, and like I said, we've talked about this before. But Angelique, if it wasn't going to be somebody that looked like Miss Parker, to me should be mixed, or flat out African American or something. I think she should be.
I agree.
I'd like to see some.
And it was
from the islands.
almost Matthew Hall. I want to mention that Matthew Hall was pushing, and I always forget the name of the model actress, and he was pushing for her.
Oh, Aman.
to
Oh my God.
to
Oh
play
my God.
Angelique.
Would have been hard for Barnabas or any of us to turn that one down.
So
No.
And he also wrote a very lovely blog about the Burton film. He had his own ideas about Miss Carter playing his mom's role. But what he said was, it wasn't Dan Curtis's Dark Shadows. And I think I'm paraphrasing here. He said, but I'm kind of glad that it wasn't Dan Curtis's Dark Shadows. They were fans and they had their own idea of what they wanted to do. And it was very eloquent. What he wrote was very, very eloquent. Again, I don't think he was terribly pleased with the way Julia, like most of us. That, for me, that was the weakest link.
Well, again, though, you have a moment where, like we said, Johnny Depp stuck very close, even though the makeup and all of that, to what we saw Barnabas as being, other than the comic part and the makeup part. Michelle Pfeiffer was a strong Elizabeth Collins starter, which
very much.
Joan Bennett was a strong woman. She had a heap of shit happen in her life, but she was really a very strong woman. It was interesting to me that the turn with the fact that they made Julia an alcoholic, almost like a functional or maybe not so functional drug addict, because she was popping pills too. And who the hell is this? And that, Grayson Hall's interpretation was strong. And at moments, what did we say? Not ambiguous, but androgynous. But she was by no means. There was nothing about Julia Hoffman that looked like an alcoholic to me.
No,
she was a very strong, or easily taken in, like with vanity. She wasn't. She tried to dress nicely for Barnabas.
Yeah,
but she was not like I want to be young like you. That just doesn't seem consistent with the character.
Not Julia at all.
Yeah, and I think that's where they failed with her.
I think the first dress
was more than sex.
We see her in, Helena Bonham Carter, is actually a takeoff on Carlotta Drake. A lot of the stuff, it's like, well, wait a minute, that's Night of Dark Shadows. That's not even Julia Hoffman.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree with you, 100%. And then her at the party like this.
Oh yeah, doing the.
Yeah, I don't see Grayson. I see Grayson Hall as being, or Julia being a great time at a party.
And Laura.
But I don't see her staring at a wall in a corner by herself. I don't see that at all. So,
from what I understand, yeah, Sam and Grayson gave great parties. They actually gave really great parties. But it's funny, you mentioned, Michael, that was when the cast was off to the side, Catherine and Laura, and all of a sudden, she's like, I did a double take because I see Carter go.
She says out loud,
cut. And Laura's like, did she really just tell him to cut? And I think Catherine was like, I guess when your husband is the director, you're allowed to do that.
Talk about emasculating the husband, though.
Yeah,
right in front of the crew. Yep.
Yeah.
Right. You don't talk to your boss. Well. Yeah,
no, not when you're honest.
They're not together anymore.
No, they're not together anymore. No. He.
Do so.
he wised up. He wised up.
Right. I'm too young for this shit. I'm too young and too rich.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about the exploration of Julia, of Josette and Barnabas. And and somebody mentioned Julia and Barnabas getting together. I have to say, I'm not a fan of that. And what I mean by that is I love Frasier. I'm a very big Frasier fan.
Oh, sure.
I love Frasier.
Us too.
When Daphne and Niles got together, it lost something to me. And Daphne's character changed quite a bit to me in the first couple. Then when she got with Niles, she was less patient with Martin Crane. She was less patient with him. She felt less endearing to me, and it didn't affect my love for the show. But I just kind of felt like you lost you disappeared Maris from the scene, which was a huge off-screen character. Now you've got he and Daphne, and there was something, I think, so you have to be really super careful about finally getting those those main characters together. Just leave it like it is.
Well, it's what
evolve in a different way.
Nobody ever learned from Rhoda. That was the problem. As soon as they got Rhoda and Joe together, it didn't work. And she said, actually, she said, I think our writers were trying to do Mad About You years before Mad About You came around. But it didn't work. And then they made Joe into an asshole. And he had been so likable, and now he was unlikable, and they had to get rid of him in order for the show to continue. It just didn't. It didn't work. And we've said this too about Barnabas. I think he almost has to be a playa. I mean, unless you get him in with Josette somehow. And the same for Quentin. I don't think you could actually really have them settle down totally. They kind of have to be playas, unless you're going to finally end the series and say, well, Barbara Eden. Barbara Eden.
How are you going to have a vampire family man? You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to see Leave It to Beaver but a household of vampires. You know what I mean? Leave them. The struggle is the thing.
Barbara Eden, she said, I didn't want us to get married on Jeannie. She said, you realize she's not even real. She's smoking a bottle.
Yeah.
She said they got the ratings that they wanted out of the episode, but she said once we were married, it just kind of It wasn't like Darren and Samantha. That was the crux of that. That was what that was about.
And you had in-law tensions, and you had the fact that he was a mortal and she was a witch.
Yeah.
And it was already there when the show went on, but not.
Jonathan Frid, right. Barnabas Collins, closeted gay man. Samantha Stevens, closeted gay witch. They can't find out. Nobody can find out.
Yeah, exactly.
All of these things played into it. And
I agree with Laura Parker's interpretation. I love both characters. We just went through a however long talking about this. I think if they were married and they were on more even ground, now they're on more even ground, it would go back to her trying to dominate him, and I think he would get sick of it. Like in Laura Parker's novels, they did get married, and not only did he get sick of his mortality once he started to feel old and women started saying no, but she wasn't as doteful. She was almost irritatingly doteful. She was almost like, okay, I need a few feet. They were sharing a coffin. Julia wanted a coffin shared together. She bought tapestries to decorate the coffin room and all that. And Laura Parker read it out like it's just getting on his nerves, so he locked her up in the coffin. So I think it would be very unwise to put. You can continue, like we talked the Watson Sherlock Holmes thing. Please continue that, but don't mess up.
Don't muddy the water. Don't muddy the water.
Exactly.
Don't muddy the water.
Exactly.
Pam just wanted us to know that there's a new vampire show on CBS from the creator of Ghosts in September. That's true.
Oh.
However, it's a comedy.
Oh.
It's about a 500-year-old vampire who has a daughter who's a vampire who falls in love with a mortal. And the comedy that ensues. So, yes. I'm curious about that as well.
And I want to mention, they just did a little event on the anniversary. David Selby was supposed to be there. He could not attend, so Catherine flew in and took his place. And they screened a couple of episodes, which apparently were all enhanced. And what I got on some of these boards is they announced that, if I'm wrong, someone correct me in the comments. I get the impression that the series is going to go to Blu-ray, that they now, and John said the technology is available.
Yep, that they can upscale.
They can upscale the series where they couldn't some years back, but now, so I think they're actually going to bring Dark Shadows to Blu-ray.
Yep.
So that was there.
That's
Again,
exciting.
the book, so there's going to be Dark Shadows Legacy, Dark Shadows Noir, the new Dark Shadows Daybook. What am I leaving out? There's all this stuff. There's all this stuff. You've got the new animated series in the works. It's in development. Michelle Pfeiffer saying she wants it to be a new television show.
New merch.
There's a lot of new merch on the way. They have talked about Josette's Music Box, but We still don't know, is it a new nice model or is it the same old dinky plastic one they've been doing for years?
I'm voting for the plastic one they've been doing for years.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but the price on the cane is up to like $1,000 now.
Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't notice that. Oh, wow.
I was
didn't...
looking when I was looking for my eye. I was kind of looking to see what a new one would be, and everything I saw was like way up there, or used and abused.
Yep.
So I mean, obviously there's something going on out there. There's a pulse. There's movement
Agreed.
out there.
Yeah.
So it like you said, it's not going anywhere. And,
No.
I mean, it tells so many classic stories and in new,
Sure.
great ways. So it's beautiful. I'm thrilled.
And even though we bitch and moan, and it's again, we wouldn't have Dark Shadows at all without Dan Curtis. So, Dan, we love you wherever you are up there. Hopefully, you and Jonathan had a toast. You've gotten past all of your differences. Joan and Louie and Grayson, Grayson puffing one after the other, lighting them on a cloud, lighting them on a blue candle in the clouds. Well,
you know who I was thinking the other day, I would have loved to have seen on Dark Shadows at least for a couple. It was Roddy McDowall.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
I wonder why he never. I was watching him on Fantasy Island. That's what it was, and he played the devil. The devil twice, and I thought to myself, "Wow, he should have been Diablos or something along those lines. He would have been. He was such a good. I didn't even think of that before. But I'd love to see him.
Yeah.
I think it was the coast thing, East Coast versus West Coast.
And we're going to redo. We have to redo our Dreamcast episode. We had to pull that episode down. I'm not going to go into it. The drama. Don't like busybodies. Don't like busybodies. Let me make that clear. We don't like busybodies. I don't like some people poking. Don't poke. Don't probe. Don't pretend to be my friend.
Or at least use lubricant.
What was that?
At least use lubricant before you probe.
Yes, please use. Oh my God!
We're gonna get letters.
What a way to end!
We're gonna get letters.
This lovely 60th anniversary episode of this show. It's been months. We'll be back next week. We are going to cover Jameson Selby's wonderful Return to Collinwood, which is another piece of merch. They're reissuing it on CD, along with a follow-up that he wrote about Angelique and Reverend Trask. They didn't record that one professionally, so they're putting the professional Return to Collinwood and the live recording of that follow-up on a CD that's going to be coming out through Big Finish. So, but we're going to review Return to Collinwood because John and I were there for the live presentation for it when they did it live on stage, which was amazing. That was in Brooklyn.
Not a dry eye in the house.
Not a dry eye in the house. So we're going to be
wait. Laura Parker and
Jerry
Lacey did actually do the Trask Angelique thing, so it's their voices.
It's their voices.
Ooh.
It was done in L.A.
Wow.
It was done in L.A. We saw it with Aunt Carol. Aunt Carol was with us.
Yeah.
And so they have a live recording of that. So now they're putting that on with Return on a new disc.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But we're gonna sink our teeth into Return to Collinwood in the next episode. So that's what's coming up next.
Stay tuned, episode 33.
Thank you so much, Michael Panzerato, my other half here. Everybody, watch Dark Shadows. It's on Tubi. It's on Amazon Prime. Right? It's all over the place. Stay tuned and stay in the shadows. We'll see you soon, everybody. Thank you.